Bauer, the CEO of Prosper Trading Academy, joining us down at the CME. Most pronounced in gold, Scott. We also had crude fade a little bit. Equities came back. So the session did tilt a little bit more towards risk here. What do you make of it?
You know what? It's an odd one, actually,
Yeah,
Oliver, because what's changed since 12 hours ago, since pre-market, other than there hasn't been any sort of reprisal from Iran, right? So nothing has really changed. So, you know, it's almost as if the market just is getting a little bit numb to these overreactions, you know, just like, you know, after the Saudi attacks and we saw the big rise in oil, and then, you know, immediately we saw a pullback here. The market's getting a little numb to it. And look at the VIX today also. The VIX was up, you know, $1.50 this morning. Now it's down on the day. It shouldn't be down. Now
you've got VIX lower. It seems like, you know, crude with the turnaround suggests maybe this whole worry that something's going to escalate immediately, to your point, and, you know, not a quick move back by Iran or not escalation. I mean, look, we don't know, right? Who knows what's going to happen?
We do not know.
But the market seems to be telling us that unless it happens soon, maybe it's back to business as usual.
I mean, business as usual would be great. You know, I find the move, though, in both gold, more so in gold than I do in oil. I find it surprising that it backed off as much. To me, oil still, when you look at the fundamentals here of production, of demand, oil to me still has major headwinds. It's up because of the risk component to the marketplace, but when you break it down to those fundamentals here, it's a very difficult trade in my world to be bullish. Gold, on the other hand, you know, I can see this rally sustaining itself. The Fed is going to be incredibly supportive. This is like, you know, the absolute golden world for gold here. The Fed's supportive. They're not raising rates. Probably is going to put somewhat of a cap on the dollar, which is all bullish for gold.
Yeah. So what's interesting here, Scott, is gold, though, is now, you know, the way I see it, it's like in a world of its own, right? I mean, even with the risk-off tone that we saw in bonds and in BTC, like you and I discussed last week, the moves in either of those asset classes relative to their 6-month price action, way more muted than gold. And lately, obviously, even before the attack, crude, copper had been moving, so now it's like gold is even further doing its own thing.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, look at gold and actually palladium as well, which is, you know, off the charts to those all-time highs. So, yeah, it is in its own space right now. At some point, it'll probably level off. And I think what's something that's really interesting to watch, and spoke about gold, spoke about palladium, you spoke about copper, is gold versus silver. And that historic ratio, the gold-silver ratio. You know, historically, somewhere that ratio is somewhere in the probably the 60 to mid-60s range, you know, gold versus silver. Of late, over the last year, it's been more like 80, 85 to 1, but historically it's been 60, 65, and, you know, silver just to me is still quite the laggard.
And to your point, it's at 1817 right now, /SI on the platform, but the 19.8 was the high that we got in September, so we're still far removed. Seems like a little trend breakage there as well, but not even close to gold either. So it's like within even its own category, gold is an outlier. Does that mean you want to go to short it, or is there better ways to express maybe you know, optimism?
I don't want to short it here just because of the risk sentiment in the marketplace. I do not want to short it. I don't know that we get a big run. I think 1600, you know, maybe, which we weren't too far away from. But when I look at it as a ratio with silver, if I'm going to look at those two, I want to buy silver as compared to gold, because I think there's much more upside potential just based on historical relationships there.
Yeah, okay. I like it. Scott Bauer. Hey, thoughts on BTC before we let you go? Moved on the news, but not much.
That correlation right back with gold. But you know what? It's supporting above that 7,300 range. 78 is the next one to look at.
All right, you got it. Scott's the CEO of Prosper Trading Academy. Fun chat.